Welcome to Success Blueprint. I'm your host, Scott Hansen, and it's on this show that we get a chance to interview some of the biggest, most important thought leaders and business individuals in all of the Midwest, specifically Chicago, and today is absolutely no exception. We have a real treat for you today. We're actually interviewing the Group President of Commercial Banking, Mr. John Ciceris. John, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into the banking world.
Sure. So born and bred here in the city. Had an opportunity to work part-time as a teller at MB and work my way through school. And that was 22 years ago, and I've been with them ever since. So I didn't really know what a commercial banker did until I experienced it firsthand, and then I found a career calling. A lot of it has to do with really getting to talk to entrepreneurs on a daily basis. My natural curiosity gets intrigued when I'm walking through a factory floor one day and in a secondary college the next, right? And so the ability to kind of see different things on different days makes it fun and engaging. And being in the small company that's on a growth curve has been really, really helpful because it helped me get to the title I have today.
Okay. So the $1 million question, what does MB stand for?
Sure. It stands for Means Business.
Means business. Okay.
Yep. That's our tagline, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Cool. So you said you've been with one company, MB, for 22 years.
Yeah.
When most people at the age of 30, 31 are literally in 5 to 7 different jobs and they're hopping around and they're trying to find their passion and their calling and whatever it is. How did you find your passion and your calling at such an early age?
You know, it's interesting. So I haven't had the same role in 22 years, and it has not been the same bank. And I'll explain that in that I joined a $150 million asset-sized bank that was 2 branches in the city of Chicago. And now we are on the cusp of becoming a $15 billion, 100-branch bank, right? And so that growth curve creates a number of opportunities for young people who show an initiative to get things done. And I remind our CEO that when I started, it was only $150 million. Right? And so there's some value to my 22 years.
Right. He's got the golden handcuffs on you now.
Right, for sure.
Years, right?
I'm committed. I wear it on my sleeve. So,
many large corporations, you said you went through a huge growth curve. When in 2008, 2009, when the world, specifically the banking world seemed to collapse, what kept MB afloat, and how did it make such a huge jump?
Sure. I think historically we've always been very disciplined about how we view credit and lending in this environment. And so that discipline allowed us to not make as many mistakes as our peers, right? So we weren't immune from what happened, but we were certainly better prepared for it. And when we were better prepared for it, it allowed us to take advantage of those who weren't during that time. And so we actually bought 6 failed banks from the government. We were essentially early to that market and got better deals than what was happening later in that setting. But that allowed us to grow geographically, build branches that we didn't have before, a lot of nice overlap into what we do today. And more importantly, we've been able to be ahead of the curve on a lot of the initiatives that we've taken into the market today. So we're very focused on fee businesses that didn't exist at MB in 2008 that now do. And we're ahead of where our peer group is in a lot of that.
We talk a lot on this show about leadership and leadership essentials. Obviously, when most companies were, going back to their roots or really kind of tucking tail, or some even going out of business, you're mentioning that you guys are buying banks up. Yeah. I've always been the believer that it starts with the top down. Leadership starts with the top, goes down. So what would you attribute when, again, most companies would have been maybe shying away from growing at the time of despair and desperation? You guys were buying. Sure. So I'm assuming leadership plays a vital role in your organization.
Absolutely. Look, I think the conservative nature of some of what we did before the financial meltdown all comes from our CEO. And his leadership and his vision has been what's carried the bank all the way through. But I will say that leadership comes from every level of the organization, right? So it's not a matter of a title. I don't think it's associated with a title. And so really what we preach is culture is dictated by the individual, right? And so if you behave accordingly, then others will follow. And those who choose not to believe just don't belong. And so over time, that kind of element changes. And we have this entrepreneurship type of a quality within our ranks. And it's no surprise, right, that we came out stronger than we went in with respect to the financial meltdown. And a lot of our fee income businesses have been created based on ideas, right? So ideas from the front lines, get investments, get buy-in, get management support, and all of a sudden this little incubator is created, and we have business lines and units created from a simple idea. And our CEOs always had an open door policy, so no matter how silly the idea or the question, you could ask, and you're not intimidated by that title, right? And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I think that's huge because, again, most companies, especially the level that you're at, the size that you're at, it's very hierarchical, maybe positional.
Sure.
And what you're saying is your CEO has an open door policy
Absolutely.
that ideas create bigger ideas.
Absolutely.
And it's not just a matter of one person. Yes, he might have the CEO title, but everybody owns their own business unit, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And he invites you to question his assumptions, right? And so he's very good about that. He's generally right, but on occasion, he listens to others' perspectives and makes adjustments to his people.
When a lot of companies, John, I want to switch gears for a second. A lot of companies invest a lot of money in technology or research and development or hiring new people. They spend millions upon millions of dollars doing that. But a lot of companies, I believe, miss the boat where they don't invest in their current employees. They don't invest in professional development. What's your take on professional development? And yes, it's good to invest in everything I just mentioned, but it's also great to invest in the people that are also investing back in the company.
Look, I think it's critical. Turnover is a big issue, right?
Right.
So we talk about that with respect to clients, but internally it's a big issue if we have frontline staff turning over. So to our clients, we become a face, right? So I've been there 22 years. That's meaningful to someone who's been my client for 22 years. So if we have that revolving door, that's a big problem. We invest heavily in the development of our people, and it's not a small dollar amount. You contrast that with a small business, they don't have that type of flexibility. But I think there's ways to do it that you could do it without spending big dollars for it, right? And so there's a variety of ways to get people engaged, and that's the number one thing, right? So when you have engaged employees, you have a better product, you have a better outcome. People, it resonates in the market, your sales will go up. If that engagement falls off, it's not going to work. So even in the smallest companies, we watch when the CEO walks the floor, the president shows us around. How does the employee base react to him? Are they intimidated? Are they running? Do they respect him? Do they not? That actually plays a role in whether or not we're going to lend money to that company. Because ultimately what we've seen is those with an engaged employee base that respects the owner tends to have a better longer term outcome.
Right.
And so it's critical. You have to find a way to reinvest in that workforce. It's not easy, right? But a lot of it is actually the owner's time or the business president's time.
I think I want to follow up on what you just said about engagement. There's a lot of executives that are going to be watching this show saying, how do I develop a culture where my employees feel a buy-in to the culture and not just showing up because they have to mentality, and they're at 8:59 in the morning, they're leaving at 5:01, and they can't wait to get in and can't wait to get out. How has your division in MB developed this culture of, wow, that's a great place to work?
Sure.
And it's not just my job, but it's also part of my job is working with people that I would probably go out and grab a beer with after work.
Exactly. No, I think that last part's completely true. So we have, it's not a written rule, somewhat of an unwritten method that most employees have a friend or a best friend at work, right? And so there's something about the fact that they miss each other.
Right.
So my group misses each other when we're out too much and we're not all in the same location at the same time. That tells me they're engaged, right? They're engaged because they're committed to the people around them. But then how do we get them engaged to the overall mission? Right. I think it's about creating these mini companies within our divisions, right? So we say to younger lenders, this is your company. I work for you. You don't work for me.
Right.
So you got to use me to grow your business. So find a way to do that, right? And in ours, which is generally sales driven, it's a little bit easier to kind of use that methodology, right? So the struggle internally, backroom operations types roles, I think that's where you have to get them engaged in the ultimate outcome, right? Whereas customer wins and results and that kind of thing, make everyone part of of the feeling of a win,
Right.
and more importantly, the feeling of a loss, right? So when we look our wounds on the sales side, we want the people in the back room to feel that they were invested in that as much as we were. And ultimately, when you achieve that, it all takes care of itself. But I think the number one rule of engagement is making sure that they feel compelled on the wins and the losses.
And I think that's huge because, again, I mean, most companies have this internal combustion sometimes where the one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, and it's very top heavy, if you will. And you're saying, even though people have titles, obviously in your organization, there's no reason why a CEO can't take advice or some new ideas from maybe someone that's been there for less than a year that would betterment the company.
Absolutely, no. You should be open to everything, and I think where we've seen customers struggle is where they don't adapt. Right. So
Right.
Generation X and Generation Y have come and gone, and those things are real,
Right.
and you have to react because ultimately that's your customer base too, right? Regardless of what product you're selling. And I think the customers who've been open to evolving have done really, really well, right? Those that have done it the same way for 70 years, those ways have changed. And unfortunately, the market is very quick to adapt. And so you need to constantly reinvent yourself. And one way to do that is to get engaged employees who are ultimately tied into that vision.
Right. We also talk on the show a lot about associations and surrounding yourself with people that are playing big, and I call it in life, people that are maybe smarter than you or maybe have been there and done that. How would you describe, and I know there's too many to list off, but I know you run a lot of boards.
Yeah.
Executive Board of Citizens School of Chicago, Advisory Board for DePaul's College of Commerce, member of both Illinois Network of Charter Schools and the Council of Development Financing. I'm sure there's more,
Yeah.
but we'll just name a few. What's your take on someone right now is watching this, maybe a young man or woman right out of school,
Sure.
and they're saying, wow, I'd love to have John's career one day. Wow, he's dialed into the community, obviously a successful executive. What's your take on associations?
Yeah, so I think there's two schools of thought in my mind. One is find a mentor, right, or find a group of them. I think that's critical. So I have them in a variety of shapes, sizes, and ages, right? And I think being able to bounce ideas, or at least have a sounding board,
Right.
is really, really helpful. And they don't have to be in your industry, right? So they could be all throughout. As it relates to associations and nonprofit boards, I'm a big believer of pick something that's meaningful to you, right? You will find good people all over, but so mine have a heavy concentration in education,
Right.
and that's simply because I'm a product of CPS, and I always felt that by moving out to the suburbs, I was a bit of a sellout. So my idea was, well, look, I could find a way to give back, and Citizen Schools in particular allows me that. And so we teach in CPS classrooms, and we do some things around developing students coming out of CPS that could help create this grassroots approach that allows for some of the jobs that are available to be filled by local people, right? And I think there's a tremendous opportunity for all of us in the business community to give back, because that's just right. So it's not a neighborhoods problem anymore, right? It's not something you read about on the news. Like this is something we should all kind of be focused on. And so I think once you get engaged and you're committed to a cause, you'll find good people all throughout, right? And I think those network and those contacts, that drives your personal development, your personal growth, whatever that mission is, right?
Right.
It also helps you drive revenue in your business and helps you do some different things. And I think as long as you're genuine to who you are, and that comes across, it takes care of itself, right? So then it becomes really fun, right? So you asked me. There's a number of boards and there's a number of kind of moving parts. The fact is, like, it's part of my life now, and it's something that you have to find balance. But the reality is, it's so much fun to give back, right? So when you connect with a sixth grader in a CPS school that you feel like you've connected to in the way that'll make a difference in their life, then it doesn't matter, right? Like you've just achieved what the goal is. And then what I do is I engage my clients to see it, right? So the business owners who are complaining about their taxes and where that money's spent, I show them, well, here's a way you could give back, where maybe you bypass that authority that's collecting your taxes and spending it in a way you don't like. Like, here, why don't you teach a class and teach them that there's a way out of a community that doesn't offer the same opportunities, right? So it becomes a lot of fun.
In John Maxwell talks about it in his 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership book. He talks about the law of the picture. The law of the picture is people not necessarily do what you say, but do what you do. So they actually do what they see you do. You're obviously a living example of your values are your values, and you're not only just talking the talk, but you're actually very successful in your job, but you're also giving back and adding value and impacting other people. And I would imagine that then trickles down not only to your team and your clients, but I know that you are a father of 3 and you're a husband and all that. So I'm sure that also spreads into your personal life as well, I would imagine.
Absolutely. And so I'm officially the PTA president as a result of that very thing, because I always felt that I don't want to cheat my kids' school if I'm playing a role in all these other initiatives, right? And I'm the coach of the soccer teams, and I do all the things that are the fun parts about being a dad, right? Like watching your kid achieve some kind of a goal, watching your kid participate, being active in their school, helping them with homework, all the fun stuff. And I think it's important because you're spot on, right? You're also raising a future mom and a future dad, and they should see what impact that should have, right? But yeah, I wouldn't trade my time with them for anything. That's the best. And I couldn't do any of this without my wife, because without her, she's the balance, right? She's the one who has sacrificed her career so that I could have mine.
People are probably watching going, does the guy sleep?
I don't.
Does the guy sleep?
4 hours a night. That's all you need.
How do you do it all? How do you balance a very successful career? And it's not like you're just coming home at 5 o'clock and all that. You're doing all these other things you just mentioned. And I mean, how do you balance it, really? I would imagine it comes down to prioritization and having a schedule, but
so you have to learn to say no, right? So some things you just can't do. I struggle with that, candidly, because it's just something that you always feel like you could do more. But honestly, so without a strong partnership at home, it doesn't happen, right? So you need that partner to balance things and to pick up for one another, right? So Stacy sacrificed her professional career, but has excelled as a mom, and that is a much tougher job than anything I face. Right. And then I think at the office I have probably the greatest team in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So I could trust in them that they could do things without me there, right? And we've been together for so long with so many of them that we start to think alike, and behavior kind of mimics each other. And so really it's a function of having all of that allows me to do things that maybe I wouldn't be able to do if I didn't have that strong kind of partner at home, and then the strong team at the office, right? And it's not easy, right? You got to build that, especially the team at the office. It's not something that happens overnight, and so I think the audience should know that the reality is it takes time, right? It takes time because you reach a stage in life where certain things start taking place, and then it gives you that flexibility to do some different things. Not to mention the fact that the nonprofit boards you really want to be on aren't going to approach you until you reach that stage of life, right? So there's kind of a coming of age, so to speak, that happens around your mid-30s that people start to notice what you've achieved in the market and say, you know what, this might be a thought leader we could bring on that they could maybe help us craft a different vision or enhance the mission or do some different things. So yeah, I mean, I think patience is part of it, and I think don't be afraid of taking on opportunities, right? So my whole career has been around not shying away from things that people are afraid to do, or being told that we can't do this because we're a small bank. Like you can't buy that, right? Use your mind, roll up your sleeves, find a way to do it, and don't turn down an opportunity. There's always going to be another one, but don't turn one down because you're afraid of the work or the effort or the change.
I remember a quote my father told me a long time ago. He says, 2 things in life are the most important things: health and a good partner.
Yep.
And you just hit the nose on the head with having the right partner at home, because if you didn't have that balance, things you don't have to worry about when you're working and doing these other things and building your career.
And if they don't share your values, right?
Right.
Then it doesn't become a meaningful
Right.
thing to them, right? And that's critical, right? So choose wisely.
And on that note, we're going to choose wisely and end the conversation. But thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I know you're a really busy guy.
No, thank you.
It's been an honor to have you on the show. So thanks again.
Thank you.
So that's a wrap for another successful episode of Success Blueprint. Again, I'm your host, Scott Hansen, and make sure to dial in and tune in to MeetAdvisors.com for the next show that's coming up very, very shortly. So as always, go out and make it a great day, because you absolutely deserve it. Take care.